Thank you. And good afternoon. Welcome to the first of many Natural Resources and Open Spaces Subcommittee. Today, we will be discussing, just in discussion, two bills, HB 72 and HB 186. And we can start with HB 72. Oh, and we have Kristen here.
Yes, I'm handling HB 172 and Patrick's handling the other bill.
Yes.
So I'm not sure if he's going to be back in time, just an FYI.
Yeah, he
Okay.
made a mention to me. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, great. So House Bill 72 establishes an edible forest and foraging program in DNR. It does two things. It establishes a permitting program for foraging on state lands, and it requires, subject to the availability of funding, DNR to establish and maintain edible forest on state-owned lands. It also sets up a fund to support the program that's being established under the bill. I talked to the sponsor's office earlier today. I do believe they're working with DNR to have amendments that I think narrow the scope to maybe be a pilot program. I haven't seen anything yet, but that's kind of the status of where we're at.
Kristen, we got a copy. If we can, Meredith can pull it up. We got a copy of the amendment that was sent. It has not been, I guess, somehow gotten to us again, but it is their draft amendment regarding changing this to a pilot program. Meredith, can you bring up that amendment?
Do you want the amendment or the reprint? Okay. Thank you.
Let's do the amendment first because we actually haven't gone over the bill. So maybe we should just hold and see if folks have questions and thoughts about the bill. No. Okay. We can bring up the amendment and go over the amendment.
I must have missed it come in. I apologize.
No, that's okay. We asked for it, right? We asked for it and we're just getting it. So it's okay.
So the reprint might be easier to follow.
Okay. Okay. We do have the reprint as well.
Give me 1 second to pull it up.
And it was also attached in your calendar, so you should all have the reprint.
I'm looking at it now. Do you want me just to wait? Did I get disconnected? Oh, no, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Okay.
I can hear you. Yep.
I somehow got myself off the screen. So okay.
Yeah, Kristen, I think it went out it froze.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, yep.
All righty. Okay, so I haven't had a look at these yet. I apologize, but it is making the program a pilot program. So if you can scroll down, I guess that's where the details will be. As far as the scope of this pilot program, it looks like the definitions in the bill remain the same, other than program is going to be updated to pilot program. So we see after line 9, it's requiring the department to establish 2 designated foraging areas to implement the pilot program. And the pilot program is to be operational for a 3-year period. There's a reporting requirement where the department would have to get back to the committee on the number of foraging permits issued by the department, the species collected under a foraging permit, and the impacts to native plant species, as well as the cost and revenue associated with implementation of the pilot program. Can you scroll back, because I see a shade of a shall being changed to a may. I think go down a little bit to the next section within the fund. Let's see. On line 25, instead of requiring the department to adopt implementing regulations, it would be authorizing instead. I guess we can continue to scroll just to see what else, if there's anything else. I don't think anything else. The rest of the stuff is just relating to establishing a special non-lapsing fund, and with interest earnings going to the fund instead of the general fund. So yeah, so we do have the amendments. Sorry about that. And it is just basically turning this bill into a pilot program, a 3-year pilot program.
Thank you so much. I do want to mention before I call on Delegate Jacobs and then Delegate Long that I did get a letter. I got an email. I think the committee received it from a Mike Gregory about, I guess, his opposition to it. Let me see if I can do this second. Okay, so the first, he talked about opposition given opening up a Pandora box of problems for field staff, because he used to be a former field manager of Maryland State Forests and Parks for 30 years. So he said it would a field of problems for staff who were tasked to manage and protect our state, doesn't have a sufficient number of field adequate staffers to monitor this program nor any properties. He mentioned uses of this type should be limited to private lands only. I think we may have solved that just by having this more of a pilot in 2 places. And it said it didn't provide enough adequate provisions or safeguards to protect public lands from the abuses we can foresee. And so I think that was his concern. And then he sent another letter, maybe some of you received it, that went into 2 details that it was too vague and didn't have provide enough sufficient restrictions. The consideration that folks are harvesting edible plants, that folks may be using tools and procedures that may not be sufficient. So yeah, I think you all got it, but I just wanted to just put it out there. Delegate Jacobs.
Thank you. In looking at this, it says about 2 areas. Designating 2 areas, but it doesn't say how big these areas are. The ½ acre, 1 acre, 50 acres, 100 acres. There's no size in designating 2 areas. So that's a big concern for me. We don't know what an area is. And secondly, if you do plant this for foraging, and people have a permit, I would assume, go in there and dig around and harvest whatever. So if there's one thing comes into to season, so to speak, like tomatoes, for instance, and everybody runs over there, gets into tomatoes at one time, is DNR going to enforce? Are they going to police this thing? And you know what I mean? And I want to know what kind of personnel is involved in this, from a just making sure people don't get hurt or fight or whatever. And more importantly, what's the size of these designated areas? I don't see a size.
Thank you. We can go back through and check in with the sponsor about designated size. I know the fiscal note talked about an X amount of cost per acreage. Make sure if I got that number right.
It says here it's a pilot program in two
Yes.
designated areas, but what size is a designated area? That could be
Before,
100
so-
acres. It
Right,
could be
that's-
100 acres. I don't know.
I know, but it does say that it's DNR estimates that the total cost to establish an edible forest are approximately $10,000 per acre. I don't
Yeah.
know how this changes if you're just talking about two special parks or forests, and then how many acres they're looking to do still within those areas. So that would be something to consider. Anything else, Delegate Jacobs?
Well, just, I just got this with the amended version.
We
just
did too. So.
Prior to this meeting, so I really haven't had time to study it as much.
No,
as
that's fine. We haven't either. We asked, I knew that at the hearing, the sponsor stated that there would be amendments, and I was making sure that we had them. So we got them late as well. This is why this is only discussion. So we're not making any decisions
Okay.
today.
Well, I brought up at least two of my concerns.
I got them.
Just so you know. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Delegate Long.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Since this is for discussion only, did we want to, for the sake of conversation, see if we can
Go to Ally and tell
perhaps
her.
work amendments that would be suitable to Delegate Jacobs, if that's the will of the subcommittee, and give the sponsor time to get to us at least by the next meeting next week, and then we'll make a decision then.
I'm sorry. I didn't hear what you were saying.
Ooh,
That was just me. I dropped my book. So we're here for discussion only. And I think as
right. That's what I was saying. So do we want to give the sponsor time to get the amendments and perhaps work with Delegate Jacobs, and then if we don't receive it by next week, then we'll move forward? Or
Delegate, respectfully, we are discussing them right now. We do have the amendments. If we want to make further amendments, the Delegate Jacobs can certainly either offer those amendments and talk to the sponsor about it. We're not moving any bills quickly. I think in here we're doing work thoroughly. I think from, I don't know if you've been on this particular, but we do work thoroughly. We don't just push bills out. So that's just the process anyway. So,
Madam Chair, yes, and respectfully, no, I wasn't trying to move the bill. I was just trying to help accommodate my colleague from the Eastern Shore to make sure that he was had a good feeling about the bill. I didn't know if he was going to add additional amendments onto it on top of what the sponsors already sent. That was my statement. So I'm sorry if I wasn't clear.
that's okay. I mean, we that's how we usually operate. If that's what he wants, he can certainly either offer them, or we can again take notes from here, seek the sponsors' feedback about some of the questions that he has.
Thank you.
Any other questions? And the reprint of the amendment are in your calendar invitation. No other questions about this bill? Jeannie, do you have any questions? Yes, Delia Grammer.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair. Can you refresh me as to which bill you're looking at?
I'm sorry, we're HB 72. I think you had a hearing. I'm sorry. Yep.
Are we
This
taking
is the-
comments and questions?
Yes. We're just in discussion, Delegate.
Yeah, so can we get a little bit of discussion about the nature of why the bill's necessary? It seems to create an authority governing foraging is probably one of the silliest things I've ever heard.
Well, Delegate, we don't want to make comments about why people bring bills or not. I mean, silly to you or silly to somebody else may be something that somebody came up with in their district. We often put in bills for our constituents for their thoughts and ideas. So I don't want to call anybody's work silly. We can also state that we don't understand its purpose and how it works in the greater world. I think that's fair, but I don't want to use things like things are silly. So just respect.
Thank you for that. Can we speak to, so this creates really a broad regulatory authority over any kind of foraging area. And as far as I understand in reading the bill, anywhere can be declared a foraging area. So it seems as if the Department of Natural Resources could come in and say, everywhere is a foraging area, and we now need a permit to do that. Can we kind of articulate why that's necessary? I mean, this is a free activity.
Right. I think this, well, one, the bill, per not only the hearing, but per our discussion, has been amended, working with DNR to shrink this down to essentially 2 areas, not necessarily the whole state and every park and every forest. So that's one problem solved. But I think some of this comes around. I'm trying to look at the sponsor's letter again, was just around this idea of I don't want to use the wrong word.
Sustainability.
Sustainability, food sustainability, this idea that, we, as much like when we think about ag and how, there's a lot of people who, one, may not understand or know where their food comes from. And so we often try to do education to show like kids where their food comes from. It doesn't just come from the grocery store. It comes from a place, whether it's a manufacturing place or from the field. I think in the same way, this is one of those ideas about there are people who do this, whether it's, you see those big hobbies now, people do the foraging for mushrooms, or folks are doing foraging for certain rare vines or shrubs, or some other delicacies that I don't know about in the forest. I think this is a way to experiment to see how we start, if this becomes more than just like a hobby for someone or a matter of food security and sustainability. How do we kind of launch and start establishing this so that it can become a thing? So I certainly understand your question.
The amendment doesn't change that, though. The
Doesn't
amendment
change
adds,
what?
it adds 2 pilots, but as far as I'm reading in the email that you sent here
Mm-hmm,
in the reprint,
mm-hmm,
it does not actually change the really broad authority of the agency, who I'm assuming is the Department of Natural Resources.
So you just think the bill needs to have narrowing authority? Yeah, I mean, and if that's the case, I mean, this is why we're discussing it. Like, what is too broad? What needs to be narrowed? I mean, I did read a letter from a former parks ranger who talked about maybe some terms were too vague and maybe this was too broad. So I think this is an opportunity to talk about, the broadness and the authority and where you think it needs to be narrow.
I'm trying to formulate the argument in my brain, and what I'm coming up with is, could it be any more broad? We essentially are creating a program now, a state program that will subsidize foraging areas, and it's the same permitting structure in the bill as originally written that will create a permitting structure for foraging activities. The only thing that's changed is that we are now limiting that to very
Yes.
specific areas.
Yes, that is true.
So really, this is a whole new authority for governing completely, even though it's very limited now.
Sure.
The idea of finding a wild berry in a forest.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, Delegate, you think such things should not be programmed or created in a program of sorts. If somebody wants to go foraging for a wild mushroom anywhere, they should be able to do it and not necessarily have to get a permit for it, is what I'm hearing you say when you talk about broad authority.
Yeah, I don't think you need a permit for a Boy Scout to have this activity in any way, shape, or form. Or, you know, in the testimony, they talked about this as an activity. I don't do it. I think it's pretty cool though. And you know, this is kind of like the camel's nose in the tent. Now we have the foraging police. And I don't see that as changing in the amendment at all. And not only do we have the foraging police, we now have the foraging subsidies, creating a program for whomever wants to create a foraging program. So I don't want to belabor it too much.
No, I mean, we're here for discussion. It's fine.
I mean, is this really necessary? Even for the food security issue, I such a broad authority for governing when people can go into a wild space and pick.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I appreciate that. And we can talk a bit more about maybe why the authority is needed. When I spoke to the sponsor about this bill, because we did have this bill last year and we did not pass it because there were a lot of questions about this bill, not only in committee, but through emails sent by different constituencies. She stated that she likened it to someone, she created the permitting process like you would create the permit process for hunting. You know, it's a certain time, it's a certain place, in certain cases it's a certain weapon, so on and so forth. She said she modeled the permitting process as if it was like a hunting permit. That's how she described it to me. But again, if what I hear you saying is that why would someone have to purchase a permit to go pick anything in the wild? It's a good question. I think one question we could potentially add to that is safety. Do folks know what they're picking? And maybe that's really why we have someone who can get a permit and maybe someone who can be out there, because I don't know the right mushroom from the wrong mushroom. One mushroom might get me incredibly high, one might kill me, and another one might be the same. I don't know the difference between mushrooms, and maybe that's also another conversation we can have about making sure whatever's being foraged is something that is not necessarily poisonous or deadly. I see the vice chair had her hand up first, and then I'll go to council.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to, this is an intriguing idea, and I thought so last year, although I can't say that I had really wrapped my head around what it meant. And so this year I'm focusing on that a little bit more. And I want to see if you could use the analogy almost of a, pick your own farm that the state managed, that you buy a permit to be able to access. But there is some sort of sustainability and some sort of support that the state puts into making sure that that space is safe and has things planted and maybe has dangerous things removed or labeled. So I do understand Delegate Grammer's point. I also think if I grew up, picking blackberries in the woods, and I still do it, right? I feel like if I want to pick blackberries in the woods, maybe I should be able to do that. But if somebody wants to develop, this is what I think we're doing. I'm just asking for a validation here. If somebody wanted to develop a special space for that was stocked full of great things and also managed in a way that it would be safe and sustainable, then I could do it and have a more fruitful experience, no pun intended, but also a safer experience. Is that the basic idea behind this bill? Different from me going out into the woods?
I would say so. If council wants to weigh in.
Yeah, I think it's important to a couple different things. I'll start. The purpose of the bill establishes two different things. So there's food foraging when you're taking food from a forest, from a natural forest. And then there's potential for funding to set up cultivated food forests where that would be presumably planted on lands that were already have been disturbed. So there's two different types of management that would go on. And the other point I just wanted to raise, just from a legal standpoint, is the claim right now is that there is no legal means for foraging in the state. That the current forest and park regulations prohibit removing or disturbing plants and natural items on state-owned public lands, such as state parks, meaning foraging is restricted on public land for the general public. So there's technically not a legal means to forage.
So, and just also to be clear, Kristen, I think to the vice chair's point and Delegate Grammer's point, there is no legal means, but there also isn't an illegality. In other words, if I went in my backyard and picked, if you've got a big forest in your backyard and you just go pick blackberries, that's also not illegal to do either.
Well, this is for state-owned land.
Right.
So that's where the claim is that the department regulations, by prohibiting the removal or disturbing of plants and natural items, that in itself is the prohibition.
Got it. Delegate Jacobs. I'm sorry, Vice Chair Guyton, were you done?
I am, thank you. I really appreciate the explanation, Kristen, and Chair Boyce. I think that is how I understand the bill. I think it's a cool idea worth consideration.
Okay. Delegate Jacobs and then Delegate Baker.
Okay, so my two previous questions, one is the size of the two parcels. We don't know what size they are. That's one of my questions. The second one had to do with basically, I guess, public safety, et cetera. And Delegate Boyce, you brought up a good point about not knowing what you're eating. So now my next question is the liability on state land. Somebody gets sick or somebody dies from eating the wrong thing. Who's liable on that as well? Would that be a waiver when you get your permit? Or is there a liability from the state standpoint? So that's my three questions.
I got them down.
Thank you.
Delegate Baker.
Thank you. My concern with this is out where I'm at in the three western counties, there's probably, and I don't know the exact number, 150,000 to 200,000 acres of state-owned land. You got the Savage River State Forest. You got a lot of the Department of Natural Resource properties. And I know just in my area, there's family activities come morel mushroom season, and families literally go out in to the woods and they look for morel mushrooms. The families know what to pick, they know what to eat, they know what they can eat. And I just don't know how you're going to tell a family that wants to have an activity, if it's 6, 8, 10 of the family members, they all have to have a permit to go out and look for morel mushrooms. And it is a seasonal thing. The other concerns that I would have would be, how would it be patrolled? Does that mean you're going to have to hire more Department of Natural Resource officers to go out and patrol? I have a lot of concerns about that. And, out our way, we're just pretty much self-sufficient. And when we want to go hunt berries or we want to go hunt mushrooms, we go hunt them. So I don't know how I'm going to be able to tell my constituents with a straight face that we're now going to have a foraging fee. You're going to have to buy a license to hunt mushrooms.
Well, remember, this is now a pilot. It would be in certain areas. It more than likely wouldn't be in your area. But what I do hear you say, and I hear a common theme, is about enforcement. How is this enforced once this pilot starts, once these areas are chosen? Is there anything else, Delegate Baker?
No, but if there were to be a foraging fee, if I go and I buy a hunting license, and want to hunt on the state forest, I don't think there should be any additional fee. That should be one of my privileges that go along with my hunting license.
Mm-hmm. But we really
Yep.
can't hunt on state land, so it wouldn't work.
Well,
Delegate,
I understand, but people are hunting mushrooms on state-owned property.
yeah, no, I hear you. I hear you.
So,
Anything else, Delegate Baker?
no, that's it. Thank you for listening.
You're quite welcome, Delegate Grammer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Department of Natural Resources does use enforcement quotas. Would the subcommittee be amenable to an amendment that says they cannot have quotas for the enforcement of penalties under this law?
No enforcement quotas. I mean, I don't see why not, but I would hope that they wouldn't. I mean, I'd want to clarify that they wouldn't have any enforcement quotas to begin with. I don't know. I'd be interested. Maybe we can have DNR. I was hoping they would actually be here. Meredith, we can make sure that they knew that we were having this meeting about this discussion. I'd be open to ask them. I don't want to make the assumption that they would have a quota on a permit like this, but I think it's safe to ask, and I certainly have it noted down for consideration.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Delegate Odom.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Just a question about, under today's current law, what is being requested here in this proposed bill is actually restricted. Am I hearing that correct? I mean, this is you're not allowed to do what is being asked to create this pilot program to do under current law. You can't engage in this activity. Am I correct?
Kristen.
Yeah, I mean, so based on the testimony from the department is that they have their current regulations. Let's see. Right. So
Yeah, just apparently there is no current legal
so
need.
current regulations prohibit removing or disturbing plants and natural items on state-owned public lands, meaning that foraging is restricted on public land. I don't know to the extent that part is enforced, but that is the by regulation, removing or disturbing any plant or natural item is prohibited
On state property.
on state owned property. Yep.
Right. So I guess excuse me, let me close my door, please. Okay, I'm sorry.
No problem.
With that limited understanding that I have, it seems I can't understand what the real purpose behind this is, other than to do what it's asking to do, but which is now restricted. And so I just seem like I need some other information, particularly from the agency that enforces this is DNR.
Yes.
Okay, so
I'm sorry that they're not here, Delegate Odom. I assumed that they would be here, and we just need to make sure every time we send these out that they also get this along with the agenda, just like you did. I'm not sure why
They were invited.
Yeah.
Right. And so where it leaves me at is I'm at a quandary as to what DNR's perspective of this is, which I think is important. I really do.
Right. You're absolutely right, which is why we're having only a discussion today. We're not making any decisions. We are certainly taking down thoughts and opinions and suggestions and potential amendments. And it's clear that there needs to be some other clarifications, which is why we go through this deliberative process, because we want to make sure everybody understands the intent of the sponsor. And most importantly, what I hear folks are saying is that they want to ensure the ability of the agency, the department, to be able to carry this out without a quota to do so, is what I'm hearing.
Okay. Yeah.
To do so. But I would say, given what we know so far, is that, again, this is a thing that people do. And to Kristen's point about the legality, this would, I guess, through this pilot program now, help start to create the legality of doing such things on state property, you know.
And to answer kind of the questions that are
Right.
being raised of what are the impacts?
Right.
Right.
And if there are, I think in this one write-up from this gentleman, he talked about this idea that that we assume by nature that we will be unselfish and will be considerate of the resources in others, and there's no mechanism within this bill that can assure that certain individuals within our society will not take advantage of this program for their own selfish desire. So there have been questions, for instance, about if I get this permit and the department is essentially cultivating stuff that I can then take, can I then be a permanent person on maybe a discounted fee, go and forage and then turn around and sell that stuff? Am I allowed then to sell it? Those are some of the questions that have been about it. Will somebody take too much of what can be foraged? Is there going to be a certain limit or amount? You can only take X amount of handful, X amount of basket, so on and so forth. So those are valid questions. Delegate Baker and then Delegate Grammer.
Yeah, I'd just like to have, you keep talking about quotas. I'm not sure I understand what that means.
Delegate Grammer can explain.
Okay, thank you.
Quota is a number, a requirement that an agency gives to its enforcement
I understand.
officers. It's essentially a employee kind of promotion, demotion metric that leadership will use to require that you go out and bring up bad guys in order to get promoted. And if you don't do that, you are demoted. The reason I asked this is I actually got a situation where a gentleman was hunting out somewhere in Western Maryland. He had his license, but he didn't have his stamp. The DNR officer said, I understand it's a $15 stamp. I'm sure it was a mistake. And then he criminally charged him for hunting without a license. And come to find, DNR uses quotas. I'm sure the officer didn't want to charge him, and the guy had to come back out and face criminal charges out in Western Maryland. But when you create these kind of enforcement incentives, this is the result you have, is that, it's just you're picking a couple wild strawberries in the forest, but it's also illegal. Now you're facing some kind of citation or even criminal charge.
Does that help, Delegate Baker?
Very much, and I agree with Delegate Grammer 100%. And if we were to move forward with permitting, we should also have some guidelines as to what the fines would be if someone wasn't following the rules perfectly.
Got it. And Delegate Grammer, do you have another question? You'll be the last question we have, so we can go to the
I
next
do.
bill.
And
of course.
So there's also a program created under this bill. If the argument is an argument of legality, which I don't agree with, but if we were to assume that was true, why are we now creating a fund and a program and likely a grant, which someone will be applying to start a foraging program? Like, why do we need to now subsidize this via taxpayers?
It's a good question. I can't answer that question, but it's a question. I mean, I think there is what the department can pay for, and I think the assumption is some of the permitting fees would pay for the programming or this pilot program.
Yeah, I even if it's just a matter of oversight, that's one thing, but it doesn't seem to be that. It seems like this will be administered to some private group. They will now be vis-a-vis, the people performing this activity, having, making their own profit off this. And I'm not sure that's in line with the bill itself.
Thank you. If there are no other questions, I do see Patrick, and we can go into discussing HB 186. Thanks so much, Kristen. And this was Delegate Boucher's natural resources bow hunting on Sundays. As we all know, last year we took a tremendous amount of time to work through and come up with a very large Sunday hunting bill. And I know I just wanted to have this out for discussion. It may be something that is added to the larger. It may not be considered at all, but I did want to, in fairness to, I guess, to somewhat of the speakers' request is that we at least talk about bills that have come before the committee and the subcommittee. So I just wanted to take an opportunity to just for folks to discuss this. This bill does give it gives provisions to folks who did not ask for it. Those who did not ask and yet do want it, like Baltimore City as it relates to park land and some and private. Yeah, Vice Chair Guyton.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. So I believe that I would be willing to consider the bill. Usually I don't like hunting bills at all, Sunday hunting bills at all, but I think I'd be willing to consider this bill. But I did have some concern about the language that Kristen and I discussed a tiny bit last night. I asked her about in the bill that mentioned bow hunting or another weapon.
Right, I had that in my notes.
So I don't know if we can clear that out, that would not be okay with me, but if we're only talking about bow hunting on Sundays on private land, then either this bill or another vehicle with something like that added is something we could discuss, but not the other portion of the bill that.
Well, Patrick is on the call and he can maybe help us understand what a hunting device other than a bow and arrow actually means, because I actually don't know what that means either. And they did come up with the hearing.
It basically means a rifle, shotgun. But to draft, what this bill does is it takes every Sunday in the season for deer and turkey, and it says yes, and during the bow hunting season, you can hunt on Sunday. Every Sunday during the bow hunting season. Now, for turkey, for deer, there are different seasons for firearm and bow. So that's not a problem to draft. But for turkey, both are used during the whole season. So to make the distinction, the drafter, who was me, has to go say, okay, you can hunt, for turkey on all Sundays during the turkey hunting season with a bow and arrow. But then with all of the other weapons, it's staying as is. So I had to split that out. And that's why you see that language, but there's no new days or hours being given for rifles or shotguns or whatever. The only thing this bill addresses is bow hunting.
Okay, thank you so much for that clarification. It was hard for me to understand.
So like I'm looking at one instance here, and it's only for turkey, like I said.
Yeah.
Where it says
it's page 3, line 16B. Is that the one you're talking about?
Yes, good example. On each line 14 says you can do it on each Sunday of the turkey hunting season, which is spring and fall. I think there's a third one too, winter. But then it goes down and says on each Sunday of the spring turkey hunting season for non-bow weapons, which is the current law for both bow and non-bow.
So wait a minute. Okay. And the reason why you said using a hunting device other than a bow and arrow is because in the spring it's another firearm.
Well, what the bill is doing is in this current law is in the spring, you can do Sunday hunting for turkey, bow and arrow, or rifle. This bill is expanding it for bow and arrow. So we're saying, okay, all throughout the season, not just the spring for bow and
Okay,
arrow.
so that's the clarification that I think I need. It's one or the other. So it's not like it's solely one or solely the other. What it's saying is that you can also use.
Well, that's the current practice. They don't differentiate between weapon seasons for turkey like they do for deer.
Yeah, but I guess it's confusing because it's bolded as if it is.
Well, this bill is in essence doing that by saying for turkey or for bow hunting, you can do it every Sunday in the turkey season. Whereas for other than turkey, other than bow, it stays as is for the spring season. Nothing's changing for weapons other than bow.
Are there any other questions? Any questions about this? I know this has essentially been open to every county. And I guess we're going to have to figure out, even as we consider the larger Sunday hunting, which counties actually don't want this. I mean, I've already heard discussions about, try shooting a turkey with a bow and arrow. It's not fun. It's got to get it once. But there is a plethora of counties in here that I'm not sure. I have to double check the testimony that may or may not want this, and they're added for places that actually don't have hunting. And so we're going to have to go through that and potentially remove. But again, in discussion to this, because hopefully in the weeks to come, we'll have the hearing on the larger Sunday hunting bill, and this may or may not fit into that. This may or may not move forward. So, but I just wanted to, if anyone else has questions or discussions or concerns. No, it's not a sexy subject. I'm sorry. Foraging seemed to be the hot topic. Delegate Grammer.
Yeah, I'll just say thank you, Madam Chair. I'll just say really briefly, this was something I did with a lot of the men in my family when I was really young. And although we haven't done it in many years, it was a really cool family-centered thing. We go
hunting?
Yeah, hunting. We would not, well, we did it with guns, but we go up Mount Nebo, up Western Maryland, and walk a mile up a mountain. And I've really appreciate those times. So to maybe expand this without the noise that bothers everybody, I think would be, I think the hunting community would appreciate that a lot.
That's fair. I remind everyone often is that, we often have to set policy for the state for things that we don't understand and or like. It's not my job to make policy based on what I don't like. It's based on the policy of the state, and hunting is a policy issue of the state. And so why I'll tell you in a minute, I will eat deer sausage, I'm not necessarily going out and shooting the deer. So we just have to, make policy and move from what we think about or what we feel about it. Because at some point, if you eat meat, at some point, at somewhere where it's naturally or unconventionally, it goes down so that I can put it on a fork. So
I think the committee would like to know about that deer sausage.
Oh, it was very good. I didn't make it. I had a past coworker that went hunting all the time. He brought back, it was the spiced deer sausage or the plain. And one time he brought back bear. So I've had bear sausage, which was actually delicious as well. Everything tastes better with eggs. So any other questions about this? I just wanted to talk about it, see if anyone had any other thoughts and opinions and concerns or excitement about it. That way we can get those notes down. So when we consider the larger hunting bill and probably the weeks to come, we can start picking through it and seeing if this fits or does not fit in with that. Delegate Jacobs, got nothing to say? Surprised at you.
What do you want? Well, I think I think that this could be incorporated in the bigger bill.
Okay, fair enough. Okay. Just checking in. Any other thoughts, any other concerns? Hopefully we'll start having regular meetings now that the session's underway. Every bill we will discuss, you know, we hope that we can, you know, I think this is a good group of people. Hopefully we can put through good policy. We've got really two strong institutional council folks. They will let us know, you know, help correct the record for us, help make sure we've got the right information so we can make good policy. I'm hoping that you agree and that I think we're going to make good policy. Wonky subject matter sometimes, but I think we're up for the task. We've got Delegate Holmes, who this used to be his wheelhouse, and now he's back. And so I may be drawing on him about some natural resources stuff as well. So if there are no other questions, or any concerns, I have a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
Second.
We are adjourned. See you guys.